All right, guys, before we start this video, I want to say this was filmed on 9/11. And, I remember when 9/11 actually happened, I had just quit a job of 5 years. I'd worked at a private school, was a PE teacher, and I just quit. And so I just happened to be home and I was asleep. My girlfriend at the time, now my wife, she calls and says, hey, have you seen what's going on? Get on the news. And the first building had been hit. And so I'm half asleep. I'm watching it. And I'm like, my friend's over. I'm like, hey, check this out. And we're watching. We don't even know what's going on. We just woke up. And it's different because it's on the other side of the country. Just like if it's in another country, you see it, you're horrified, but it doesn't feel real what's going on yet. And then we see the other building get hit. And then it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And you got your friends, everyone talking, hey, is this country going to war? It was very scary, but very numb, very not understanding the situation. Well, we all know what happened. And year in and year out, we go through things. We go over 9/11, moment of silence, all those things. And what I wanted to say is I watched something, I've seen other videos, but for the first time, I watched one from National Geographic. I watched it today. I'm an emotional guy. I laugh easily. I get frustrated easily with sports. And I tear up easily when it's emotional things. And I got very watery-eyed. I cried. And so watch it, National Geographic, the South Tower. It is all spoken through survivors, everything. I mean, to hear these, there's things in there all these years later that I didn't even know happened. And to see it, to hear it, and it brought me back. It brought me back there. And I think that's something every American should go do and rewatch it. It was like a 40-something minute. It's all over YouTube. You can watch any of them. But I would definitely recommend National Geographic, South Tower. Watch it. Relive it, man. I'm gonna share it with my kids because they know about it, but they didn't see everything that went on, and it's so gut-wrenching, sad, and terrifying to hear right before how people are just, I'm ready to go. I'm going back up. It's the other tower. I'm gonna go back up to work, and then what happens? And one guy shares an account where he actually sees the plane coming into the building, and he survived, and it's a great story. So please go check that out. Of course, after watching this. Thanks a lot, guys. Remember, 9/11, let's have a moment of silence. All right, thank you. Enjoy the video. And remember, fantasy, it's all for fun. It's all a hobby. Let's not take it too serious thanks a lot, guys. Welcome back, everybody. Red 13. And yes, we still have plenty of sports stories that we'll get throughout the year. But this time of year, I do like to hit up a lot of fantasy sports, fantasy football. We talked about my last show where I went through it and I said who to start, who not to start. And there was a few good ones and a few bad ones. David Montgomery, he went on to get 20 carries. The Lions beat the Chiefs. And we found out Kansas City really needs Travis Kelce. So I was wrong on Montgomery. And this last week, we saw some of the things where it was like, I was right. Hey, I said start Michael Pittman. He had a great game against Jacksonville just like he did last time. I said start Travis Etienne. But Jamal Williams was terrible. I said not to start Dak. He wasn't bad. It's just that I knew that would be a bad game. They still won because of the great defense of the Cowboys. So there's going to be plays where you hit and miss. Now, we're going to cover some of the highlights of this week of the greats and the surprises and the what the heck happened. And so when we get to that, that's what it's going to be, where we're going to just talk about it. So you're going to get some chance to praise it in the comments, right? Hey, I started that guy, I did, or I didn't, or that guy cost me this. So let's just get right to it. Quarterbacks, we're going to hit up each position. We won't do tight ends. I'm not a big tight end guy. I'll still hit it sometimes when a tight end saves the day. But when you have Travis Kelce didn't play, Goddard did nothing, Pitts did nothing, Kittle was it's like there was nothing that just blew out when it came to tight ends. But there were when it came to wide receivers. But first, let's get to quarterbacks. First off the bat, we got to get to the top QB of the week, and that is Tua. Tua came out and sometimes he has these games where you're just like, man, if that guy stays healthy, now you see why he was drafted over Herbert. Because they keep saying, oh, let's do a reset, right? The Dolphins want a reset. They want Herbert. The only way I think the Dolphins would want Herbert more is because he's been healthier, at least for his whole career, while they got a concern with Tua with the concussions, and they're on eggshells. What could happen next? Tua dropped 33 points. Now, this is just in a PPR league with no bonuses or anything like that. But he went well and above the beyond projection, and he just hit everything. And we'll talk about one of the reasons why he did in a bit. Mac Jones, that is a great game. I even said when it came to quarterbacks, I would have said stay away from Mac Jones most likely because He's going against a great Patriots, or against Eagles defense that was really good. But Mac Jones went out there and had 30 points. He hit it up. He had a really big game. We'll get to, it's a familiar theme with these guys. You see quarterbacks who have pretty good games, you're going to see a receiver probably had a really big game to bail him out or help carry that team. But Mac Jones, great performance against the NFC champ Eagles. Jordan Love, 29 points. Now, I will get a little bit on my high horse here. I even put a video, you can go to our channel, look back in March or April, where I said, Jordan Love, and it was tagged, Love the new QB. I think that he sat long enough. I thought he's going to be good enough in that offense. He's got a good arm. We only saw a taste of it a little bit last year, and he played well. This isn't like his first game he's ever seen, so we knew he's chomping at the bits to get in. And all this nonsense about Devontae Adams getting out of there, because who now says, hey, he'd be interested in going back to Green Bay because there's no more QB drama. But he's like, oh, everyone wants out because they know Jordan Love sucks. They're seeing him in training camp. We're not. He does not suck. Now, it does not mean he's going to go on to be the next Aaron Rodgers, but he went out there against a pretty good Bears team that we think they really let it down. I was a big shock yesterday about that game. We'll get to that in a bit. But with the game that Love, great game, great opening game, and he hit his marks and he did everything he had to. He had some help as well. We'll get to that. But great performance, Jordan Love. Way to go. And the last one, a lot of guys on here, they had great performances. We're going to hit up guys that were kind of surprising or excelled or were way off the mark. And Anthony Richardson, 23 points. He had a good game. It could have probably been 30 had he not get that knee bruise at the end, because in garbage time, they were right there. I guarantee you he would have got a rushing touchdown there and got it to 29 to 30 points for Anthony Richardson. But great game. You compare him to the other rookies. This is what they said, and this is what I always say. I think he can finish top 10 as fantasy quarterbacks and be a great quarterback to watch, but his accuracy, and I watched that game, he did have some bad plays where he missed wide open men, threw an interception. He only threw one. That was good, but he threw it to where it's like, where are you throwing that? So he will have his accuracy problems at times, but overall, I thought he did well in real football, played outstanding, and his fantasy football as well. So let's get to some of the guys who stunk, where they were way underperformers, and we're like, what the heck happened? And with that, Lamar Jackson, I didn't see any of that game. I didn't get to watch that game. You can only watch so many, right, at the same time. But Lamar Jackson, 6 fantasy points. Now, the team won, but it was kind of an ugly game. They better win that game against Houston with a rookie quarterback. That was a gimme, and I felt like the score still wasn't enough to make me go, man, the Ravens are legit. Nah. But 6 points, he was minus 18 under his projection. So terrible game for Lamar Jackson. If you relied on him in single QBs, you really hurt. You needed a top performer on wide receiver to save your bacon, or you came out with a loss. Jalen Hurts, that's a huge surprise. 14 points. Now, we sit there and go, hey, 14 points isn't bad. But when you are like the fantasy league MVP the year before, and you are 11 points under your projection, I don't know what to do. You just go, hey, the Patriots defense, who I said don't start. I said don't start the Patriots defense because the Eagles would destroy them. Maybe the receiving game wouldn't be, but I thought Hurts and the running game. Oh gosh, don't even get me on the running game. Gainwell, yes. DeAndre Swift, I could be possibly incredibly wrong about him. We'll cover him later. But Jalen Hurts, 14 points. Geno Smith, now that I did watch. I watched a big chunk of the Rams game, and I was surprised. Their first 3 drives, they had 2 field goals and a touchdown, and they were looking good. They were long drives. That's why you're like, hey, it's 13-7 at half. You know, I actually thought the Seahawks were going to win this like 31-10, 31-13 at best. I thought they were going to blow the doors off the roof in that stadium at home against a team they swept last year. And Stafford is back. No Cooper Kupp. Whole bunch of surprises in that Rams-Seahawks game, and one of them was Geno Smith and the offense's performance. You had something going with the run game, and it just all disappeared that second half. So it went from moving the ball, and all the weapons were involved from Lockett. DK had the touchdown. JSN had a few targets. Walker was getting stuff, and then it all went downhill in the second half. So Geno, terrible. He was minus 9 from what his projection was. Dak Prescott, now he only had 6, and he was minus 14. I want to know who thought he would get 20 in the fantasy. You guys are experts who set these lines way better than I am. And I would have said at most, I would have thought Dak would have 15, maybe 13. He has not historically done great on the road in New York, and it's prime time and it was raining. I just didn't see a great game, and I said that well enough. Remember, I said my surprise don't start of the week was Dak Prescott, because he just doesn't seem to perform on these big games at times on the road, and he didn't. Minus 14, but I don't count it as a bad thing because I didn't start him in any league except for 2 QB leagues where it was like him or Desmond Ridder. I'm sorry, I'm taking Dak, even with the possibility bad game over Desmond Ridder. But yeah, any other time Dak is on the bench, especially in single QBs, I hope you did not start him or have to. And Daniel Jones, minus 15 points from his projection. He was expected to get 19 points. That whole game was a slop fest. Even Saquon Barkley, who only had 9, still doubled up Daniel Jones, who only had 4 points. Awful game. If you had Daniel Jones, think about it. Stop right now in Fantasy World. You're going, hey man, I got this. I only need 6 points. And I got Daniel Jones. Man, he'll rush for a touchdown easily. He'll rush for a touchdown. He'll rush for 40 yards, throw for 200. Even if he gets sacked, maybe a fumble, he'll throw a touchdown pass. I got this. If I had $100, I would have bet all $100 that if you were losing by 6, Daniel Jones would have took you home easily, winning that game by double digits. And you would have lost by 2. That's how bad Daniel Jones was last night. 4 points. So that's it when it comes to quarterbacks. One more, though, I do have a surprise player, and that is Baker Mayfield. He alone surprised me. He finished the game with 20 points. He was only projected to get 16, so it's only plus 4. That's why he's not up there with the other ones. But I, myself, who witnessed him with the Rams, said, look, he's got that heart. He's got that grittiness. Hell, that's why he was the Heisman Trophy winner. He wasn't number 1 picked all these times, all these years growing up. He fought through it. So he's a professional quarterback, so tip of that cap. No disrespect, but when it comes to successful winning records, he just doesn't seem to, he just is missing something. And I had said this is his last chance. He's got great weapons in Tampa with 2 good receivers, possibly Evans is Hall of Fame. We'll see more about Godwin, but he's got 2 good receivers, good running game. Can they get it done? And he did. Not only was he surprised for fantasy, that game is surprise of the week. Anything I see on social media, I'm like, the Bucks going into Minnesota. Another time, if I had $100 and I had to bet, I wouldn't bet 50, I wouldn't bet 80, I would have bet all $100. There is no way a playoff Viking team loses to that Bucks team that had a losing record and won that bad division last year and now has to replace a Hall of Famer with Baker. I'm totally out. And they go in there and I'm watching the score, 3-0, then like 7. Throughout the game, I'm like, waiting. Okay, Minnesota. Kirk Cousins throws for almost 400 yards around that. Justin Jefferson catches for 150. Where are the touchdowns? Where is the 35-20 final score or something like that? And it never came. And I didn't see the game, so I can only say what I saw the stat-wise. But that is my biggest, not the Packers over the Bears, not the Cowboys over the Giants, not the Browns over the Bengals. I would even predict all those. Now, not as bad as they looked. That's the one thing. I will give you that. Not as bad. But the way they lost those, no way. Without a doubt, the shocker of the day was the Bucks over the Vikings. So let's get to the running backs for fantasy. Aaron Jones. Yes, we know Aaron Jones is great. Like I said, I'm not going to have big name guys who are supposed to have good games unless they double their projections, But Aaron Jones, plus 12 points. That's huge, man. He had 26 on the day, so he destroyed his projection. Great game for him. This is something that has gone back since Bijan, this next guy. Bijan was drafted, right? We've said, yes, take Bijan first round. I have said it on Twitter. I have said it on my page when we talked about this Atlanta Falcons team. Go back if you care that much and you're watching. I put on the Falcons video where I said, hey, look at these weapons. I'm excited to see this Falcon team. But is there a world where Bijan gets 15 carries and Tyler Algier gets 10? I said yes. Well, it was worse than that. Algier got more carries. Algier outscored Bijan, and Bijan had a receiving touchdown. Algier had 24 points. That is plus 15. That is the highest of any running back that I researched. He outscored his projection by 15 points. And he did. They did a 2-back attack because you want the talent in Bijan to go with Algier. But now that just makes Algier better, right? He doesn't have to carry it 20 times to get 1,000 yards. He can go out there and just get 10 to 15 touches. So maybe Bijan at season end is not going to be RB5 like he was drafted. He might be RB11 and Algier, or they can both be RBs 14 and 16 and be a great 2-back attack. So you might not get that return value in redraft. Fantasy, yes. Dynasty, you will get your return. You want Bijan Dynasty, all for that. But with redraft, if you draft him in the first round, I guarantee you'll be kicking yourself. Now, we saw this with Etienne and James Robinson last year, so let's not overreact, right? Robinson, we saw what he did the first 3 games. Etienne did nothing or very minimal. Robinson did a bunch. They trade Robinson. I don't think that's happening here. I predicted this because of the usage of Kyle Pitts. I said they got this great talented weapon and they're holding them back because they don't want to overuse them or whatever the case. They don't care about fantasy. That's fine. But do you care about winning? Well, they do because they use both backs because Algier's a good back. So anyways, let's move on. Rashawn Johnson of the Bears. What a great game. 17 points. He was plus 12. We knew it was Herbert. We knew there would be some, I want to keep saying D'Angelo Russell. Anyways, D'Angelo, the other running back who just came there from Carolina. So we're like, hey, they got some good running backs here. The last one, although there was some hype on Johnson coming in the preseason, there was. So it's still a shock though, the way it went down. So now you have no idea what's happening in the Bears offense. The best guy to own is still Justin Fields in the backfield. The other running backs, they're rolling dice. Throw them and hey, one of them could have a good game. But he had a great game, 17 points. So if you started any of these backs, Algier, Johnson, Aaron Jones, most likely you did, man, way to go. Fantasy genius, because I didn't start any of those guys. And I have Algier in several leagues, and I had him sitting on the bench because I thought, okay, he might get 10 carries, but I had better backs. Turns out, no. Like DeAndre Swift. Swift had 1 carry and like 1 reception. What is up with, I thought Philly would be the smart team and say, we got ourselves a weapon. We traded for him. We know what he can do. Let's give it to him. Man, they didn't even give him 50%. They didn't give him anything. Maybe it was the game. I said the Patriots defense is good. I thought they would hone in on the receivers and Swift would have a great game. It's one game, so let's not overreact. But I'm honest, I am scared to death to start DeAndre Swift. I'm not even going to start Gainwell, right? It's like he's got a game going against the Vikings. He can go off for 30 points or he can go get 3. So it's hard to, and this is the worst case scenario. At least in Detroit, you knew he was going to get about 40 to 50% of the touches most of the time. I don't know. It drives me nuts because I had big plans for Swift. And that kicked me in the butt. Surprise, our surprise of the week, and it should surprise no one after when we come to this, is Kyron Williams of the Rams. Man, I'm sitting there watching and I'm like, okay, they started with Akers, and I'm like, is Akers hurt? Williams kept getting the touches. 17 points. Great game for him. 17 points plus 11. So these are all guys, anyone on here, Baker, Kyron Williams. We'll get to the next one, which you already know is probably a Rams. There's a couple of them. But those are going to be top waiver wire ads. Go out and get them now. This is it. I will waiver wire ads anyone on the Rams that is still available, because in Dynasty, probably not. Some of these guys are already picked up. I have Kyron Williams on several teams, sitting on a taxi squad, as well as the other guy. So Tutu Atwell, stuff like that. You know, maybe they'll come out now, but great games by them. Let's get to the duds. There's only a couple, right? One of them, actually, one's a shock and one isn't. The one that's a shock is Deion Jackson. I thought for sure Deion Jackson would have a great game. Last year, he played really well, got a lot of receptions when he filled in for Jonathan Taylor. 3 points. 3 points. It just never happened. He was only -8. But a lot of the running backs, even ones you go, hey, I thought Barkley would do this, he was just like -5. You know, in the projections, they don't project, even though he might have a 30-point game, they're not projecting that. So a lot of the running backs who had bad games were still within 4 points of their normal projection. We're not going to have those guys on here. This one's not a shock to me. I said on our last video, don't start this one with our starts and sits of the week. And that's Najee Harris. Just $5 foot long, just 5 points. You know, 5 points, -7. So that was the worst of the running backs. Actually, no, Jackson was. He was -8. But Jackson, I thought, would have a better game. Najee, I said, man, if he gets double digits, I would be doing backflips. The Niners D was outstanding. And just like I projected, he wouldn't get anything going. And he did not with 5 points. Let's get to the last part, our wide receivers. We got to go Tyreek Hill. If you have Tyreek Hill and you played him, of course you did. Nobody's benching Tyreek Hill. But any league team that I have from Dynasty or Redraft that had Tyreek Hill, yes, I won those games. Tyreek Hill, 45 points. Some leagues he had a bonus. I even saw him get to high as 53 points. So great game, 50, maybe even 56. But plus 28. He outscored his projection by 28. That's more than almost half all the receivers in the league just caught fantasy points. So great game for Tyreek Hill. Brandon Ayuk, this was not surprise, right? It is a surprise because how well he did. 32 points. He beat his projection by plus 20. So if you look at Brandon Ayuk, I thought, hey, he might have a 16, 17-point game. Really good game. I said, hey, you could start him with confidence. He had great. I said, don't start Debo. start Ayuk. I did say that because I said Debo has never had, since McCaffrey's got there, that many big games, while Ayuk has gotten better because Ayuk's more of the typical receiver, and he's got great chemistry with Brock, while Debo hasn't. And I was right, and he did way better than I expected. And Debo Samuel didn't really get too much from his projection score, but still not a great game. Jacoby Myers, what a huge surprise. Now, you shouldn't be shocked because we know he went from the Patriots to the Raiders, and the head coach, McDaniels, knows. So we thought Adams would still be the man. He still is. He had a decent game, but Jacoby Myers had the better game, and he had 29 points. How well? Plus 21. Even more than Ayuk, the last guy. He was plus 21 on his projection points because it's in Denver. It's a tough game. Surtain's going against Adams, so you're like, oh, okay. Or no, wait, Surtain is with the Chargers, I think. Samuel's with the Chargers. I love those two backs, and they're dads. When I was in football watching them, I love their dads, using them on 2K and Madden, and now their sons are playing. That's how old I am. But great. Anyway, great matchup, and he ended up having a great game. So awesome game for Jacoby Myers. And another Patriot. One was an X, the other one, Kendrick Bourne. We talked about Mac Jones having a great game, and we talked about Tua having a great game. Kendrick Bourne had 24 points, plus 19, man. So these guys, listen, this is why in fantasy, quick tip, everyone jumps on the receivers. I'm a guy who goes, I got to get at least one good running back, and then maybe a second one where you're like pretty decent. Someone you could say, okay, he might give me 10 points a game, and then attack the receivers. This is why. But this is why you can get good running backs early and be okay with a few of the receivers. If you drafted Ayuk as one of your top guys, he's not going to get 32 every week, but he's going to give you games like this, and then you're consistently good running backs that drop, Aaron Jones, stuff like that. You're going to win games. But this is why there's so much depth with wide receiver, why you need to get some running backs early on. And the duds, a lot of first, probably top 5 pick in redraft, Jamar Chase. Man, he even called the Browns elves. And, he said, we got beat by a bunch of elves, so he's so pissed. And rightfully so, he should feel bad. But he only had 9 points, minus 11. Ugh. So terrible game for Jamar Chase, and terrible game for Joe Burrow. When we talked about quarterbacks, remember, I left Burrow off, but I probably should have put him too. He was single digits, one of the worst games of his career. But Jamar Chase was bad. Terry McLaurin, he only had 5 points. Now, minus 7, right? So he was expected to get 12, but he did not have a great game. That whole game that wasn't very good. Maybe it's a reflection of Sam Howell. The worst game of the day, the biggest shocker is Jamar Chase, but he still almost had 10 points. The worst game, and someone I am incredibly high on in Dynasty, not in redraft, but in Dynasty, and I have him on a lot of teams, is Drake London. 1 target, 0 catches, the big goose egg, and I think that's a reflection of most likely Ritter, the quarterback, and possibly the offense. Because, man, you cannot have London and Pitts and nothing continues to happen with them. Eventually, it is not the talent, it's the quarterback, in my opinion. So we'll see if Atlanta doesn't get through this year, when the new QB comes in, or they get to draft a quarterback next year. But those are the big tankers for that. Now, our surprise, of course, is Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua. What a wonderful name. Sorry, I know my singing sucks. But what a great game. And there was hype on him. If redraft, no. I saw a lot of guys picking him up once Cooper Kupp went. Wisely so. I saw it in a lot of leagues I'm in. I only have him in 1 league. In all my leagues, I only have him in 1. I drafted him like in the 3rd round in a dynasty. But in redraft, I have none of them. And I saw guys go after and grab him. Wisely so. And in dynasty, a lot of guys took him early 3rd, maybe even late 2nd, saying, hey, I'm going to take a flyer on this guy, right? Because he looks so good in preseason. And man, what a great game. Him and Tutu Atwell, both. Puka plus 14 as he had 21 points. But what a great game. He played outstanding. So you got Puka, Tutu, and Williams. I don't know, man. You go after them on the waiver wire. Those are the top 3 guys you should be going after trying to grab, because Cooper Kupp's on IR. You saw Stafford. He's going to spread the ball a lot. And those are the guys he's going to be looking for. Even Higbee. Higbee had a decent game. I thought he would have a better game with no Kupp. But these other weapons just came up, and maybe it's their time. Sean McVay knows what he's doing. He's a great offensive genius. So look out. Grab those guys. Those are the waiver wire guys you want to go after. So that is it on my hit, miss, big surprise. Let me know in the comments. Did you start in these guys? Did any of these guys carry you to a minimal victory over your opponent? And who are some guys I might have missed who sucked? or who really outstanding that I didn't cover on there. This is all take before or as the Jets and Bills are going on. I did see on my phone, click across, Aaron Rodgers, X-rays, out of the X-ray room. He is not in the game. Wouldn't that be interesting if Zach Wilson beat both? I have no idea what's going on, but if Zach Wilson went out and actually took over and had a great game and led the Jets to a victory over the Bills, then what do you do? Obviously, you go back to Aaron Rodgers, but do you trade Zach, or is Rodgers a one-year deal and then Zach learns behind him? Who knows? So that is it, guys. Thanks for watching. Remember, I will have more sports stories, but this time of the year, it'll be once in a while I'll pop a sports story. A lot of it's going to be because I have so much going on. I do multiple YouTube channels, so it's hard to get so much. It's my fault, but I'm committed, and I really love sports, and I like to do this. So comment, like, subscribe, and thanks, everybody, for watching. Talk to you guys later. Peace.